Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B CBS Gossip 24 channel. Are Liam's waffling days truly over or more heartbreak ahead for Hope? Liam Spencer's waffling days truly over or is more heartbreak ahead for Hope Logan? Liam claims he's all in on a future with Hope and certainly seems to mean it. Likewise, Hope has no doubts about cementing her reunion with Liam and moving forward as a married couple. B&B's playing it up like Hope and Liam are going to last forever. But forever is an awfully long time for a soap duo to make it work. Will Liam and Hope really have what it takes to go the distance as a pairing this time around? In an interview with TV Insider, Scott Clifton and Annika Noel weighed in with their thoughts on what's to come. Noel started by getting inside Hope's head a bit and sharing her character's way of thinking. When Hope thought she was going to lose Liam permanently, it was a wake-up call that helped bring them back together. Plus, Liam and Hope have matured a lot since the last time they were a couple. Now she believes that they have done enough growing in this time apart from each other to where she feels like, okay, as two adults we can look at each other and make these promises and hopefully stick to them, Noel said. As for Clifton, he has faith that Hope and Liam could make things last. Although Clifton couldn't answer the question of whether they actually will or not, he insisted on some level he's convinced himself that these characters can actually pull this off this time and it can work for them. Naturally, it'd be a mistake to forget that Liam and Hope live in the world of daytime dramas, where things often go wrong and betrayals are easy to commit. There's no guarantee that Hope and Liam's future is set in stone, especially if the show ever needs to break them up for the sake of a storyline. At the same time, this is a soap opera, so well, light a candle and say a prayer, Noel admitted. That said, Steffy Forrester-Finnegan and Steffy Forrester-Finnegan have proven it's possible for a couple to survive challenge after challenge and avoid divorce. Maybe Liam and Hope will start falling into that category now. It'd be nice if Liam could finally ditch his days of waffling and avoid breaking Hope's heart. Of course, Hope's made mistakes of her own, so let's hope she can stay devoted to Liam while he does the same. Liam Spencer's waffling days being truly over, or whether more heartbreak awaits Hope Logan, is a question that lives at the very center of the bold and the beautiful's long-running romantic chaos, and it's the kind of question that fans have been asking for over a decade as the Liam, Hope, Steffy triangle has evolved, collapsed, resurrected itself and shape-shifted into countless permutations that continue to define the emotional landscape of the show. The possibility that Liam's newfound determination to recommit himself to Hope might signal a long-awaited turning point is certainly appealing, both to viewers craving stability and to characters who are exhausted from repeating the same heartbreak cycles. Yet the nature of daytime drama means no vow, no matter how heartfelt or passionately delivered, is ever entirely secure, because the genre thrives on disruption, temptation, betrayal, and emotional reversals that keep audiences invested. Liam's claim that he's all in on a future with Hope seems sincere. Almost startlingly so for a character whose indecision, romantic ambivalence and chronic flip-flopping have become defining traits. But sincerity in the moment has never guaranteed consistency for him, particularly when guilt, nostalgia, or perceived obligation inevitably draw him back into old patterns. Hope, for her part, seems equally determined, and her conviction appears grounded in maturity rather than naivete. She genuinely believes that she and Liam have grown during their time apart, especially after the emotional crisis that convinced her she might lose him forever. That near loss seems to have pushed her into a state of clarity, a realization that relationships, even flawed ones, can be rebuilt when the foundation still exists. And according to Annika Noel, Hope views this reunion as the culmination of years of personal evolution. Two adults finally capable of confronting their past mistakes not with denial or resentment, but with accountability, communication, and the willingness to rebuild from something real rather than idealized. When Noel explains that Hope now believes they've both done enough growing to look at each other as two adults, and make promises that might actually stick, she's revealing Hope's deepest internal shift, a belief that emotional maturity, not romantic fantasy, is what makes forever possible. Scott Clifton echoes this in his own way. Not by promising a guaranteed endgame, since no actor is permitted to give away future plot twists, but by expressing genuine faith that these characters could make it work if the writers allow them to. Clifton's reflection that he has, in some sense, convinced himself that Liam and Hope can actually pull this off this time, shows how differently he views Liam now compared to earlier eras of the show, where Liam was often depicted as passive, confused, or too easily swayed by circumstance. Clifton's perspective suggests he sees a version of Liam who is capable of breaking his own habits, who has finally recognized the damage his indecision inflicts, not only on Hope, but on his own sense of identity as a partner and a father. But even as Clifton expresses this optimism, the shadow of the genre looms. The bold and the beautiful is not built on happily ever afters that remain static for years. It's built on sudden ruptures, shocking temptations, catastrophic misunderstandings, and emotional upheavals that test even the most iconic couples. Annika Noel acknowledges this openly when she warns that at the end of the day, this is a soap opera, so well light a candle and say a prayer. That admission is not cynicism, it's realism. Hope and Liam may want forever, but forever is a long time for a soap couple to survive without interference, narrative necessity, or the gravitational pull of unresolved history. Daytime dramas thrive on cycles, and Hope and Liam's cycle is one of hope, heartbreak, reconciliation, miscommunication, trauma, and longing, punctuated by external forces ranging from manipulative villains to complicated co-parents to family rivalries that strain even the strongest bond. Their past has been littered with betrayals, misunderstandings, manipulated circumstances, and emotional wounds that were never fully addressed before being swept aside in the rush to patch things up again. This raises the question: can a couple with such a fraught history ever truly break the patterns that define them? Noel and Clifton seem to believe that maturity might be the missing key, and there's evidence to support the idea. Hope has confronted enormous personal challenges, questioning her moral compass, confronting her own worthiness, dealing with parental dynamics, experiencing marital collapse, coping with romantic betrayals of her own making, and these experiences have fundamentally changed her. Liam, too, has suffered enough emotional fallout from his own indecision that the consequences finally seem to have penetrated his self-image. Instead of seeing himself as the man who can save everyone, support everyone, and love everyone, he may finally recognize the destructive nature of trying to be everything to everyone. A man cannot be the emotional anchor of two families without eventually capsizing both, and Liam seems to understand this more clearly now. Yet the show itself complicates matters. BNB has a long tradition of revisiting its central love triangles, and breaking free of those gravitational forces is difficult, not just for the characters, but for the writers who rely on these interpersonal dynamics to generate story. Even Steffi Forrester Finnegan, a woman whose strength, complexity, and resilience have led her into her own dramatic arcs, remains part of Liam's emotional DNA. Even when she's happily married to Finn, even when she's firmly committed to her life away from Liam, their shared past lingers in the background. The show has repeatedly used this lingering connection as a narrative springboard for conflict, crisis, and moral dilemmas. Hope's fear that even if Liam is faithful in practice, part of his heart may always be tied to Steffi, is not unfounded. But the reverse is also true. Hope's own mistakes, including her emotional entanglement with Thomas, have shown that she is not immune to the kind of temptation she once believed only Liam was susceptible to. Her idealism has been tempered by reality, and that may paradoxically make her more capable of sustaining a stable relationship. She no longer expects perfection from Liam or herself. She expects communication, honesty, and boundaries, the very things they once lacked. This raises the more philosophical question of whether soap couples can grow in ways that permanently alter their dynamic or whether they are destined to orbit the same emotional conflicts forever because the genre requires repetition. Noel's remark about lighting a candle serves as both a joke and a warning. Love is never safe in daytime drama because safety does not generate narrative tension. Yet there are exceptions. Steffi and Finn have become an example of a couple who has repeatedly survived challenges, danger, deception, outside interference, and still avoided collapse, proving it's possible for writers to allow stability even within a turbulent genre. If Steffi and Finn can survive the relentless assaults on their marriage, then perhaps Hope and Liam can evolve into a couple shaped not by chaos but by resilience. The possibility that Liam may finally abandon his waffling, an emotional pattern so notorious that it's essentially become part of his character branding, would mark a profound shift not just for him personally but for the entire narrative ecosystem of the show. His indecision has long been the catalyst for countless plots, breaking hearts and reshaping family units each time he goes back and forth between two powerful, compelling women. If he truly commits to Hope without letting guilt or nostalgia draw him away, Then Hope herself faces the challenge of maintaining trust despite years of betrayal. Her ability to forgive has been both her strength and weakness. She has often extended grace long past the point where an average person might have walked away. But in her current psychological state, newly empowered, more assertive, more aware of her own emotional needs, she seems to approach forgiveness differently. Not as blind idealism, but as a conscious choice rooted in understanding rather than denial. This conscious approach might be the key to avoiding the patterns that doomed their past. Still, the future remains uncertain. Soap operas have a way of testing couples at precisely the moment they begin to find stability, whether through external forces, villains, affairs, hidden secrets, surprise pregnancies, manipulations, tragic misunderstandings, or through internal doubts that resurface when least expected. Hope's devotion could be strained if she encounters lingering feelings or insecurities connected to Thomas, particularly if he re-enters her orbit with romantic determination. Liam, too, could face moments of temptation or emotional reactivity, especially if Steffi faces a crisis that pulls him back into protective territory. Even if both remain faithful, old wounds can reappear during new conflicts. Emotional triggers often survive even the most diligent healing processes. But perhaps that's the point. Perhaps the question of whether Liam's waffling days are truly over is less about predicting future plot twists and more about exploring whether characters can genuinely evolve in ways that reflect real human growth. Hope and Liam's reunion, framed as a mature, reflective choice, suggests the writers may be interested in exploring themes of healing, responsibility, and second chances without immediately tearing the couple apart for shock value. Whether this lasts depends on many factors: audience response, narrative needs, actor availability, and the show's long-term storytelling direction. For now, though, Clifton and Noelle's comments create an intriguing narrative space where hope and uncertainty coexist. It's possible the show will allow Liam and Hope to become a steady, resilient couple who weather storms without succumbing to them, much like Steffi and Finn. It's equally possible the writers will eventually decide to fracture them again for dramatic purposes, unleashing another wave of emotional fallout that ripples across families and relationships. In the end, the future of Hope and Liam's relationship is neither guaranteed nor doomed. It exists in the delicate balance between character intention and narrative necessity. They want to make it work. They believe they've grown. They are approaching each other with more honesty, maturity, and emotional insight than ever before. But they remain characters in a genre that thrives on turbulence. Whether Liam's waffling days are truly behind him, and whether Hope can maintain unwavering trust in their renewed partnership, will depend on whether the bold and the beautiful chooses stability or upheaval as its next chapter for them. For now, all viewers can do is watch, wait, and, perhaps as Annika Noel suggests, light a candle and say a prayer, because in the unpredictable world of daytime drama, even the strongest promises are only as durable as the next storyline that threatens to unravel them. Yet even as fans wonder whether Hope and Liam truly stand on the edge of a transformed future, the deeper question looming beneath their reconciliation is whether the couple can sustain emotional stability when the world around them constantly threatens to push them back into destructive habits. And this question becomes even more compelling when we consider how intimately tied their relationship is to the broader history of the bold and the beautiful, a history defined by cycles of loss, betrayal, forgiveness, and rebirth. To understand what lies ahead for them, one must acknowledge how their love story has always been shaped not only by their feelings for each other but by the expectations placed upon them, both by their families and by the viewers who have watched them grow from youthful idealists into adults carrying the weight of their complicated pasts. For years, Hope idealized Liam as the man who embodied loyalty, compassion, and moral clarity, a man who would never deliberately hurt her. It took repeated heartbreaks for her to face the truth that even good men falter, that even love rooted in sincerity can fracture under pressure. In turn, Liam spent years believing Hope represented a moral compass he could never live up to, a symbol of purity and goodness he desperately wanted to deserve. Yet this pedestal was part of the problem, because no relationship can thrive when burdened by unrealistic expectations. Their journey toward maturity has required them both to abandon those illusions and see each other not as symbols, but as flawed individuals trying to navigate life's complexities. This shift is crucial because the version of Hope and Liam that reunites now is not the starry-eyed couple who once believed love alone could fix everything, nor are they the broken pair who kept repeating a toxic cycle. They are, tentatively, two people trying to build something sustainable, grounded in the reality that love must be nurtured with accountability, boundaries, and emotional consistency. Still, the world surrounding them remains volatile, populated by characters whose choices intersect with their own in ways that can unravel even the strongest intentions. Thomas Forrester, despite currently being absent or low profile, remains a lingering psychological shadow in their relationship. The intensity, creativity, and obsession he directed toward Hope altered the dynamics of her marriage in ways that cannot be easily erased. Even if Thomas remains on his best behavior, even if he stays completely out of Hope's orbit, the memory of what happened lingers in Liam's subconscious, a reminder of how quickly trust can crumble when emotional needs go unmet. Similarly, Steffi's presence, even as she remains fully committed to Finn, remains a quiet ripple under the surface of Liam's life. Steffi is not merely an ex-wife or former romantic rival. She is the mother of his child, a woman with whom he shares deep history, profound trauma, and years of emotional entanglement that do not simply vanish because his heart is now committed to Hope. If Steffi faces a crisis, whether personal, familial, or professional, Liam's instinct has always been to rush in, to protect her, to carry the world on his shoulders until it crushes him. Hope knows this, and while she may understand it intellectually, emotionally she cannot help feeling vulnerable to the possibility that old patterns might re-emerge. The show has built itself around these emotional crosscurrents for so long that breaking free from them requires not just maturity, but deliberate narrative choice from the writers. And even then, the characters must actively resist the gravitational pull of history. The same applies to the families they come from. Brooke Logan and Ridge Forrester have lived their own decades-long saga of breakups, reconciliations, betrayals, and romantic turbulence, modeling for their children a version of love that is passionate but unstable. Hope, raised by Brooke, absorbed many of those emotional dynamics subconsciously. The longing for epic love, the drive to maintain harmony, the belief that relationships can always be repaired no matter how many times they break. Liam, raised by Bill Spencer, inherited a different pattern. Bill's emotional impulsiveness, his attraction to chaos, his difficulty maintaining boundaries, and his own history of romantic indecision. Though Liam consciously rejects many of Bill's values, the imprint of a parent's emotional patterns is hard to escape. What makes their current reunion interesting is that both Hope and Liam seem to recognize these inherited patterns and are striving to break them rather than repeat them. Yet the fact remains, family influence can re-emerge unexpectedly, especially in times of stress. Brooke may unintentionally interfere, Ridge may offer well-meaning but misguided advice, Bill may push Liam to make choices rooted in obligation rather than authenticity, and any of these influences could set off small emotional earthquakes in the marriage. Even without outside interference, the internal landscape of Hope and Liam's relationship contains dormant fault lines that could reactivate under pressure. Trust, once broken, never returns in the same form. It becomes something reconstructed from fragments, something that must be actively tended. Hope's affair with Thomas, or emotional affair, depending on one's interpretation, left scars on Liam that he may not have fully confronted. Liam's repeated waffling between Hope and Steffi left scars on Hope that she has largely healed from but not forgotten. When new conflicts arise, even small ones, these scars can tingle. A missed call, a late night at work, a moment of secrecy, a misunderstanding, any of these could trigger fears rooted in past trauma. But perhaps this time, triggers will open conversations rather than explosions. Perhaps the maturity both actors described will manifest in real conflict resolution rather than collapse. If so, Hope and Liam might redefine what a soap opera marriage can look like. Not chaos disguised as passion but stability built through effort. Hope leaned down, kissing his forehead, careful not to touch the bandaging. "You scared me," she whispered, her voice trembling. Liam's hand squeezed hers with surprising strength. "I'm sorry," he murmured, his voice thick. "I didn't know something was wrong." Hope shook her head quickly. "Don't apologize. Please don't. All that matters is that you're here. We can still have our future. The wedding can wait. I just want you healthy." Liam swallowed, overwhelmed by the love and loyalty in her expression. In the days that followed, Liam's recovery became a careful, hopeful journey. He experienced headaches, fatigue, and moments of cognitive fog, but each improvement, each step, each sentence, each regained clarity, was celebrated like a victory. Hope was at his side through every moment, refusing to let fear overshadow gratitude. Finn monitored him closely, adjusting therapies and running follow-up tests to ensure there were no signs of postoperative complications. Though the tumor was removed, pathology results were pending, and Finn prepared himself to guide them through whatever the next steps might be, whether radiation, medication, or simple monitoring. Meanwhile, news of the dramatic wedding collapse spread throughout their community, with some recounting it in shocked whispers and others offering supportive messages. Those who had been in the chapel that day couldn't forget the moment Liam fell. The sharp cry, the collective panic, the unmistakable terror etched into Hope's face. But they also couldn't deny the miracle of his survival, made possible in part by Finn's sharp instincts. As the week progressed, Liam became stronger, and the day Hope walked into his room to find him sitting up fully, smiling at her. Even if tiredly, she felt her heart swell with a joy that no wedding aisle could match. "You look beautiful," Liam teased, even though she was wearing jeans and an oversized sweater, not a wedding gown. Hope laughed, a watery, emotional sound. "You should have seen me at the hospital after I ran from the ceremony. I probably still had mascara down my cheeks." Liam reached out for her hand. "I'll marry you in mascara streaks, jeans, a gown, whatever. But let's do it when I can at least stand without wobbling." Hope grinned. "Deal." When Finn entered with the pathology report, the air shifted. Hope held Liam's hand tightly. Finn read the results carefully before looking at them with relief. The tumor was benign. Aggressive in symptoms because of its size but not cancerous. "You'll need monitoring, but your prognosis is good." Hope burst into tears again, but this time joyful ones, and Liam exhaled deeply, letting his head fall back into the pillow with a mixture of exhaustion and overwhelming gratitude. It was only then that the weight truly lifted. Only then that the wedding collapse transformed from a nightmare into the beginning of a second chance. Finn smiled at them, his eyes brightening with genuine happiness, feeling as though the universe had finally bent in their favor after pushing so cruelly against them. And as Hope leaned her head on Liam's shoulder, whispering promises of their postponed vows, Finn stepped out of the room, leaving the couple to breathe in their new hard-won future.